They say love makes life beautiful, and for the longest time, I believe that. My name is Ayaan. I'm 32 years old, a software engineer by profession, and I had what most would call a perfect life. A stable job, a comfortable home, and most importantly, a woman I love deeply, my wife, Zara. Zara, and I met 7 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. She was everything I wasn't. Outgoing, full of energy, always smiling. She had this warmth that could melt anyone's heart. I was quiet, reserved, the kind of guy who preferred a book and coffee over parties. And yet, somehow we clicked. We dated for 2 years, and then we got married. It was one of the happiest days of my life. For the first few years, life was wonderful. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We'd spend weekends watching movies, going on late-night drives, and cooking together. She loved baking. Our kitchen always smelled like vanilla or cinnamon. Sometimes I'd come home to find her dancing around in pajamas with flour on her nose. I can still see that image clearly. She looked like home. We talked about starting a family, buying a bigger place, traveling to Europe. It all felt so real, so certain. But somewhere along the way, things started to change. Small things at first. Little signs you don't really notice until they start to pile up. Zara got a promotion at work. She was thrilled, and I was proud of her. Her new role meant more responsibility, and of course, more time at the office. I supported her fully. I even stayed up late helping her with presentations sometimes. She said her new boss was strict, demanding, but brilliant. He pushes everyone hard, she'd say, but he knows how to get results. I noticed she started coming home later and later. Sometimes she'd be home after 10 p.m., exhausted. Other times she'd be too tired to talk or eat dinner. She said it was just work, that this was what success looked like. At first, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? This was the woman I trusted with everything. But then came the other signs, the ones you try to ignore. She started guarding her phone more, changed her password, took calls in the other room. The way she smiled at messages wasn't the same as before. It wasn't casual. It was secretive, intimate. I remember brushing it off, telling myself not to overthink, that she was stressed, that I was being insecure. I didn't want to be that kind of husband, the one who didn't trust his wife. But sometimes your heart whispers the truth before your mind is ready to accept it. I didn't know it then, but everything was about to change. It would all begin with one unplanned early return home. The first real crack in our perfect picture came one Friday night. Zara had texted me in the afternoon. "Working late again, babe. Big presentation Monday. Don't wait up." I replied with a simple, "Okay, love you." No response. I waited until 11 p.m. before finally heading to bed. I told myself she must be exhausted. Maybe she even fell asleep at the office. But I couldn't shake the feeling, that quiet, gnawing discomfort that something wasn't right. The next morning, she was already in the shower when I woke up. Her clothes from the night before weren't in the laundry basket, which was odd. She always threw them in. And when she came out, she acted completely normal, smiling, making coffee, even humming a song under her breath. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. But I noticed something strange, her perfume. It wasn't the usual floral scent she wore. This one was stronger, unfamiliar, almost masculine. I asked her about it, casually. She froze for half a second, then smiled and said, "Oh, one of the girls at work let me try her new perfume. Do you like it?" I nodded. But deep down, that little crack in my trust widened. The following week, things only got worse. She was home less and less, always rushing in and out, always glued to her phone. And the phone, that became a whole other issue. Zara used to leave her phone lying around all the time. We never hid things from each other. But now, she kept it face down, took it with her even to the bathroom, and changed her lock screen password. One night, while she was asleep, I tried to check her phone. I felt guilty, like I was invading her privacy. But I had to know. The password was new, and I couldn't get in. I gave up, feeling ashamed, but also more suspicious than ever. A few days later, I ran into my old college friend Bilal. He worked in finance, and coincidentally, his company shared the same building as Zara's office. We caught up over lunch, and I casually mentioned Zara's promotion. His smile faded a little. "Oh, she works under Imran, right?" "Yeah, that's her new boss." I replied, "Be careful, bro. That guy's got a reputation. Gets a little too close to his female employees. If you know what I mean." Something inside me sank. I didn't say anything to Zara about it. I didn't want to come off as jealous or controlling, but I started paying closer attention. One evening, when I picked her up from work, a rare occasion, I saw Imran walk past our car. He didn't acknowledge me, but what shook me was the look he gave Zara, a kind of casual familiarity, and the way she avoided eye contact with both of us in that moment, that told me more than words ever could. Still, I kept silent. I told myself I needed proof. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it was just stress, work, coincidence. But the truth? I was afraid of what I might find if I dug too deep. I had no idea that the answer would come to me sooner than I ever expected. All I had to do was come home early. It was a Thursday afternoon, and work had been particularly dull. I was stuck in back-to-back meetings, eyes glued to computer screen, counting down the minutes until the day would finally end. Then, suddenly, my manager called me into his office. "Ayaan, you're free for the rest of the day. Project's on hold." I blinked in surprise. Free? That didn't happen often. At first, I was unsure what to do with myself, but then an idea struck me. Maybe I could surprise Zara. She had been working so hard lately, and I hadn't spent much quality time with her in weeks. I grabbed her favorite flowers, bright sunflowers, radiant and cheerful, and picked up some chocolate mousse from the bakery we loved. I felt a little excited, like I was planning a secret date night. Driving home, I smiled to myself, imagining the look on her face. When I pulled into the driveway, something fell off immediately. There was another car parked there, a sleek, black sedan I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat. I wondered if maybe it was a neighbor's or one of her friends. I grabbed the flowers and dessert and quietly stepped inside. The house was unusually silent. I expected to hear the TV or some music, but nothing. I called out, "Zara, I'm home early. I brought you something." No answer. Curious and a little nervous, I moved toward the living room. What I saw next will haunt me forever. There she was, my wife, sitting on the lap of her boss, Imran. They were laughing close, completely unaware that I had just entered the room. Zara's head rested lightly on his shoulder, and his hand was resting on her waist. The easy intimacy between them was undeniable. My chest tightened. My hands trembled. I dropped the flowers and the dessert on the floor with a soft crash. The sudden noise startled them both. They turned, eyes wide and frozen. Zara's face went pale. "Ayaan, I can explain." Her voice was shaky, but the words fell hollow. Imran stood up quickly, smoothing his shirt. "I think I should go," he said, avoiding my eyes. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I felt like the air was being sucked out of the room. All the doubts, all the quiet suspicions. Everything came crashing down at once. I turned away without a word and walked out of the house. Outside, I sat on the porch steps, trying to breathe, trying to think. What could she possibly say that would fix this? What did I do wrong? How long had this been going on? 1,000 questions raced through my mind. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the silence. The way she looked at me, like I was an intruder caught spying on a secret I wasn't meant to know. I waited there for what felt like hours, but she never came out. When I finally stood to leave, my heart was broken, shattered into pieces. I didn't know how to pick up. That night, I didn't call her. I didn't send a message. I sat in my car, staring at the house, wondering if what I thought was love had been nothing but an illusion. And in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. My life would never be the same again. That evening, after I left the house, I drove aimlessly through the city, trying to clear my mind. Every familiar street felt strange. Every passing car reminded me of what I'd just seen. My mind replayed the scene on an endless loop. Zara on her boss's lap, their laughter, the way she looked at me when I walked in. It wasn't the Zara I knew. I couldn't believe it. How could she do this to me? To us? I kept asking myself, had I missed all the signs? Was I too blind, too trusting? The next day, I tried to act normal, pretended like nothing had happened. I went to work, answered emails, and smiled at colleagues, but inside, I was breaking. Zara called me once during lunch. "Can we talk tonight?" she asked softly. I hesitated. Should I give her the chance to explain? Or was it better to stay silent, to protect myself from more pain? I agreed. "Okay, let's talk." That night, I came home late, my heart pounding. The house felt colder without her there. When she walked in, she looked exhausted but determined. We sat across from each other at the dining table. No small talk, no warm smiles. Just the weight of what hung between us. "Tell me the truth, Zara," I said, voice steady but heavy. "What is going on?" She swallowed hard, eyes filled with tears. "It's complicated, Ayaan. It started with work. Imran was always around, pushing me, making me feel important. I didn't mean for it to happen." Her voice cracked. "It was a mistake. I never wanted to hurt you." I clenched my fists. "How long?" I asked quietly. She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "A few months." The words hit me like a punch. Months of betrayal, of lies. I asked myself again, how did I not see it? How did I let this happen? But then, my anger turned to resolve. I needed proof, not just her words. I wanted to know the full truth. So, I started paying closer attention. I checked the home security camera, the one we installed after a break-in last year. I spent hours reviewing footage from the past few weeks. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. Late nights at the office, her and Imran laughing too closely, leaving together, touching hands. One night, the camera caught them kissing in the parking lot. I felt a cold rage rise inside me. But instead of shouting, I kept it to myself. I knew I had to be smart. That weekend, I told Zara I was going out of town for a business trip. In reality, I stayed home, watching and waiting. Then, I took a photo from the security footage, the exact moment she was on Imran's lap. The evidence was undeniable. I printed it out, staring at the image of the woman I loved but no longer trusted. The next day, I confronted her with the photo. I placed it carefully on the dining table, next to the empty wine glasses from the night before. She didn't deny it this time. "I'm sorry, Ayaan. I never meant for this to happen," she whispered. I looked at her, the woman I had vowed to love forever, now a stranger in my own home. I told her, this isn't just about a mistake anymore. It's about respect, trust, and what we meant to each other. Tears streamed down her face, but I felt numb. I walked out of the room, needing space to breathe. For hours, I sat alone in the living room, the weight of betrayal crushing me. I realized then that this moment was a turning point, not just for our marriage, but for me. I had to decide, fight for a love that was fading, or walk away and rebuild myself. And that's when I started planning my next move. After that night, everything felt different, like the air around me had thickened, making it hard to breathe. I kept replaying the image of Zara on her boss's lap in my mind. It was like a sharp knife, twisting deeper every time I thought about it. The home we had built together suddenly felt like a prison of memories. Memories now tainted with betrayal. Sleep became my enemy. Nights stretched endlessly as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering where it all went wrong. Was I not enough? Had I failed as a husband? I asked myself these questions over and over, but the answers never came. Friends tried to comfort me, but no words could touch the wound inside. I stopped answering calls. I ignored messages. I didn't want to hear excuses or apologies. At work, I was a ghost, going through the motions but feeling hollow inside. Every song on the radio felt like it was written about my pain. Every familiar place reminded me of her. One night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of us laughing on vacations, celebrating birthdays, sharing quiet moments on the couch. I smiled through tears, remembering how happy we were. Then the sadness hit me again, crushing any hope I had left. But amid all this pain, something inside me began to stir, a tiny spark of strength. I realized that I couldn't live in the shadow of the betrayal forever. I had to find a way to heal, to rebuild, to reclaim my life. So I started small. I went for long walks alone, letting the cool air clear my mind. I joined a gym, channeling my anger and sadness into workouts that left me exhausted but free. I reconnected with old friends who reminded me of who I was before all this. Therapy helped too. Sitting with someone who listened without judgment gave me the space to unravel my feelings. Slowly, piece by piece, I began putting myself back together. But every time I thought of Zara, a bittersweet ache remained. I loved her once. Maybe I still did in some corner of my heart. But love alone couldn't erase the hurt. And sometimes love isn't enough. I knew one thing for sure. I deserved better. I deserved respect, honesty, and loyalty. Whether our story ended or found a way back, I wasn't going to lose myself in the process. That night, as I looked out the window at the city lights, I made a silent promise. I would rise from this pain stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. Because sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones that set you free. After weeks of quiet pain and sleepless nights, I realized I needed closure, not just for myself, but for everyone involved. Revenge doesn't have to mean anger or destruction. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is showing strength and dignity when others expect you to break. I wasn't going to yell, fight, or beg. I was going to take control on my own terms. First, I collected the evidence I had gathered, the photos from the security camera, the messages, the moments captured when Zara and Imran crossed the line. I printed everything out carefully, making sure it was clear, undeniable proof. I wrote a letter, not a rant or a threat, but calm, honest words. Zara, I loved you with all my heart. I believed in us, in our future. What I saw broke that belief. This is not about anger. It's about respect, truth, and moving on. I deserve honesty, and so do you. I am done living in a lie. I hope you find what you're truly looking for. As for me, I'm choosing myself now. I left the letter and the photos on the dining table, where she would find them. Next, I made a decision to let others know the truth, not out of spite, but so that the people close to us wouldn't be fooled. I sent copies of the evidence and the letter to her parents and a few mutual friends we both trusted. It wasn't easy. I felt exposed and vulnerable, but I couldn't carry the burden of secrecy anymore. That night, I packed my bags quietly. I didn't wait for confrontation or excuses. I moved out, leaving the home that had once been our sanctuary. Walking away wasn't weakness. It was strength, a declaration that I wouldn't accept betrayal or disrespect. In the days that followed, Zara called repeatedly. She begged for forgiveness, promised a change, to make things right. I listened once. Then I stopped. Some wounds don't heal with words alone. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my life, one step at a time. I rediscovered passions I had set aside. Painting, running, even learning to cook. Every small victory reminded me that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's actions. The hardest part was accepting that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. And in that release, I found freedom. Life after leaving wasn't easy, but it was honest. At first, the silence felt deafening. No late-night calls, no forced smiles, no pretending everything was okay. Instead, there was space to think, to grieve, to heal. I moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, a place where I could start fresh. I threw myself into my work and my hobbies, but more importantly, I focused on myself. Therapy sessions helped me untangle the mess of emotions, the anger, the sadness, the betrayal, and eventually, forgiveness. Not forgiveness for Zara, at least not yet, but forgiveness for myself, for trusting, for loving, for hoping. Slowly, I learned that healing isn't a straight path. Some days were good. Others felt like I was back at the beginning. But with every sunrise, I felt a little stronger. One afternoon, I ran into a friend who asked how I was doing. I realized I could say, without hesitation, "I'm okay." More than okay. I'm learning to love myself again. The betrayal still stung, but it no longer defined me. Zara and I never reconciled. We exchanged a few messages, polite but distant. I wished her well and told her I hoped she found happiness. Just like I was finding mine. That chapter is closed. In the end, the pain taught me valuable lessons. Trust is precious. Honesty is non-negotiable. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. I'm not the same man I was before. I'm better, wiser, more aware of my worth. And while the scars remain, they remind me of the strength it took to move on. Because sometimes the most beautiful new beginnings come after the hardest endings.